Could you work with reality TV stars? Maybe you have before, but if not, could there be an opportunity for you to do that? You're going to find out today that almost anyone could take advantage of the reality show phenomena. For me personally, I hate reality TV, but I do have a bit of a guilty pleasure in a show called Below Deck. It's set on these luxurious super yachts around the world, and there's beautiful people looking after rich clients while having inevitable fallouts. But these people are not actors, well, not totally at least. They're real people who have grabbed some attention while they're on these shows, reach a variety of demographics, from the dreamers who see themselves as clients being served on boats to young people looking for a life on the ocean wave. Some people last a season, many people last just a few episodes, but all become reality TV show stars to an extent, which means there's a lot of them and a lot of variety. Funmi Lijadu is a listener of the Public Relations Podcast who very kindly put herself forward to appear on the show on Monday, sharing her thoughts on being a journalist and a public relations officer at the same time. But she also shared the fact that she studies reality show contestants. And if you missed part one of the podcast this week, where I chatted to Funmi, then have a listen back to that one. But if you did listen to that already, then keep listening, because what we're going to talk about now is perhaps some of the opportunities that might exist in the reality TV world. And I'll tell you that the reality celebrity market is a lot more interesting than I even realised. I'll also let you know how you can get hold of Funmi as well after this chat too. And I'm going to be summing up some of the key points that I got from this week's chats.
Let's talk Love Island. I mean, this amused me when we first connected, because you said about the fact you'd done this study of Love Island, and I said, I can't stand Love Island. It's, it's something my partner loves watching, and I'm just like, oh gosh, turn that down, please. I can't stand it. But I mean, so I'm a heretic on Love Island. I just can't stand it. But there is some merit to it from a PR perspective and from a storytelling perspective. Tell us a little bit about it, because you did a study on this. What can we learn from Love Island that we can use in a PR promotional environment, do you think?
Yeah. One interesting thing, Channel 4's just done a documentary about life after Love Island or something like that. And a lot of the ex-stars have been talking about the fact that they thought they'd be propelled into fame and have some kind of continuous, long-lasting presence in the public imagination. And for a lot of them, it really dried up very fast. No deals, maybe measly like brand, ads on Instagram and things like that. But they've just had to go to their old jobs or try and find different jobs. And I guess after a show like that, where there's so much stigma against being a reality TV star, that starting from scratch.
Sorry, I'm to blame for half of that, clearly.
Starting from scratch after you've been, lying by a pool and eyeing people over your sunglasses, like not really the best. It's not the most easy thing to go back into, a 9-to-5 like stable job after that. So I think in terms of the expectation versus reality of thinking that mass appeal and a big audience determines success or revenue can be a mistake. And I think that transfers into PR as well, in terms of, okay, just because this campaign saw X amount of eyes doesn't actually mean that you've it doesn't mean that you've actually gotten that value for your client or the expected result. There are different ways of measuring success, and I think the downfall of ex Love Islanders can teach us a thing or two about that.
It's interesting though what you said there, because it sounds like there's actually an opportunity for brands, if they're jumping on Love Island stars quickly while they're still prominent before they fade, there's probably actually some fairly good value deals to do with them. Or do you think Love Island stars see themselves as being more expensive than they actually are? They inflate their own value.
I think that's a factor for sure, because some of them do get good deals, but it depends on, whether you're a blonde, white contestant or a dark-skinned black female contestant, for instance. And I think sometimes for a lot of the male contestants as well, they don't always get as many opportunities for the lipstick brand or the clothes or whatever it is. So it can really depend. And I think, like you said, there is sometimes that inflation of value because it doesn't always guarantee that stable income. And I think also the nature of the show promotes this sort of luxury lifestyle and lavish spending, which means that there can be a bit of a fizzle out of, those resources that they get from the deals initially can be exhausted. And, in like a year or two, they're left, going back to their old employer who now sees them as like a tainted person, even though, it's a different path. It's not one I would choose, but I think unfortunately, like, it's not always that easy to break back into your old job, which means they then realize once all the glitz and everything fades, that actually they may have overestimated how successful they would be, especially in terms of the timing of when they leave the show. Because some people are booted out after like 2 days, and then you might not actually get any deals at all.
And do many of them have agents that are pushing them around? So
yeah,
if I as a company wanted to work with a former Love Island star, where would I be going?
Yeah, a lot of them get representation, and there's a lot of fierce competition between the big agencies and that hire talent and promote talent, and sometimes only a select few get into the top agencies that can really push them and secure the good deals for them and give them all the legal and everything they need. So yeah, I think on that front it's quite a fierce competition, because some people might end up with fighting for the scraps of what's left after the big dogs and the sorts of winners of the show take like everything. Yeah.
I wonder if there's also an element, and again, this market far better than I, but of that kind of brand, that kind of demographic watching the show is a far more of a fickle audience than, say, mechanical engineering or something like that, where you'll have some influential figure who's probably been around for 30 years. And that's one of the problems with getting involved with influencers in that sector, is that an influencer today can be gone by tomorrow.
Yeah. It's the whole idea of the attention economy and the fact that it's so fragmented, and there's just one trend and consumers are jumping from one thing to the next. And it means that the impression that someone makes on people expires very, very quickly. Someone is going viral every, 5 minutes, every hour, however long it is. And it's just the new thing after the other. So that long lasting buzz is quite a rare thing to see.
And did you see any pattern in the successful ones?
I think a lot of them were white blonde women, to be honest.
Right.
I think that demographic that tends to do quite well.
So I haven't got a hope, have I? There's no point me going on Love Island. Clearly not.
Unless you you might have to
go on, say it.
I have to get a change of haircut, but we'll see.
I think I might need more than that, but that is it. Is it basically a blonde white woman who is going to be the most successful, in quotes, as a marketable product afterwards? Yeah.
Often you see that, and people that have been on the show for a long enough period of time. There's a Black contestant in India who's done quite well from the most recent season, but she's quite an anomaly, because like usually it can be quite difficult for anyone beyond that sort of narrow demographic of what that looks like. So yeah, I think it's definitely not all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah. So if you want to get involved with Love Island influencers, it's basically, you've got to look for the people that are going to have longevity, isn't it? Because otherwise you could put money into a big campaign and no one's paying attention to them after a couple of weeks. That's a really interesting point. Yeah.
It's a shame as well, because people give up a lot to go on the show.
Yeah.
It's not respected. Well, I mean, of course it depends, and I think things are changing slightly now, but their emotions and their images are all up for grabs and exploitation by the media. people on Twitter tearing them to shreds,
Mm.
talking about their families and dissing them. And there's a lot they give up to go on the show, and the return on that isn't always so clear.
How interesting. Final bit of advice or anything for people who are, well, particularly from your situation, because you've been doing this for a little while now, but for people that are
Yeah.
particularly starting out in PR, have you got any particular advice for them?
I would say definitely something that would be good to do is just trying to pay attention to your copy and make sure that you know different ways and styles of writing, staying creative and trying to think outside of the box, and read different publications to try and understand them better so that you can know those rhythms and you can sort of, yeah, make the most of it that way.
Yeah, there's no one way, is there?
No. I think it's a very opportunistic career path, I have to say.
Yeah, very creative as well. Yeah.
Very
For me,
creative.
it's been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much. You must keep us up to date with everything that you're doing and let us know how it
Yeah,
goes. And
definitely.
tell us about more campaigns you're involved in and things that you're learning along the way as well, because I'd love to get you on the show again. It's been awesome talking to you.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. Would love to come back. Thanks so much.
Awesome. That's what I wanted to hear. We'd love to have you.
So that's Funmi Lijadu. If you want to reach out to her on Twitter, the username is FUNMI Creates. And you can find her on LinkedIn, for example, by going to FUNMI. And then her surname is Lijadu, which is Lijadu. And of course, I will include those details in next week's newsletter as well. So I'd love to know if you have worked with any reality TV show stars. What was it like? Was it successful? How did it go? What did you learn from it? What could you share perhaps with other people listening to this show? Do let me know. I would love to do an episode with you. I also promised at the end of part 2 this week I was going to sum up some of the points that I got from Funmi from the 2 podcast episodes this week. The first one is, how do journalists think? She was talking about being a journalist and a PR. And in some ways, as she was saying, journalists are more restricted than PR people in what they can create. Often decisions are made by the editor, who provides a brief about the kind of conclusions that need to be come up with and the people you need to speak to and the kind of approach you need to take. Journalists need to put their name on it as well often. And that means that they can be the target for trolls and even legal action if things start to go wrong. So they need to check their facts. There's a lot less creativity in what they can say, unlike a PR person writing a press release about a business. PR people are not in the public eye, so really their main concern is about the clients and bosses. But journalists are very exposed, so they have to make sure that they provide something that their audience is going to like, or they're going to get a lot more of an attack. What else did she say? Still about approaching journalists. Focus on figuring out what the publication wants. I've said this many times before. It's so important to have looked at what a journalist writes and what a publication wants, and you need to gear that up to them. Don't send out generic press releases to people, because if it sounds like you haven't listened or read or consumed their content at any point, the natural reaction of anyone that's got any kind of audience and isn't desperate for people to talk to is just go away. So really do focus on looking at the place you're trying to pitch to. Do press releases still matter anymore? This was an interesting one. She said it really does depend on the industry, but she said it is, although she's sending out press releases, it makes a huge difference if she has a personal relationship with the person she's sending it to, because it frankly boosts her if she feels that she knows that press release is going to actually be opened and she can write it more for them to provide something that is useful to it. Talking about Love Island and reality show stars, and she sort of compared this to the way that a successful PR stunt or a media hit or PR moment doesn't necessarily mean success for a client, because it can go so quickly. That attention can fade so fast. And this is something that happens to a lot of Love Island TV stars who find that just months later they're back at their day job and no one will treat them the same again. So you need to assume with Love Island stars or any reality show star that they may have a very short shelf life. Their value could be a week after the show, 2 weeks after the show, but then it's going to drop fast. Certainly, as Funmi was saying, the type of person, the way they look, the way they come across, their sex at times, will have an important effect on how much value they have after the show and whether many brands want to work with them. So there's certainly an opportunity with the short-term contestants who are booting out after a couple of days. If you're in a very small business and you just want to get someone that appeared on a show to be connected with you, and there's a bigger opportunity for the people who are managing to maintain their star status for a bit longer for bigger organizations. But how long is that attention going to be? How long are people going to be following that star? If their star fades after a few months and you've committed yourself to a 12-month contract, that could be a very expensive waste of time. So much great value in that conversation. Thank you so much to Funmi. She's very kindly agreed to appear again on the show. And as I say, if you're a listener to the podcast, then you are very welcome to come on here as well and share your story and your updates as well. Head to the website at thepublicrelationspodcast.com, thepublicrelationspodcast.com, and click on the guest link at the top there, which will tell you the kind of things I'm looking for and what you need to get on the show. I hope you have had an absolutely fantastic week. I hope you found these episodes interesting as well, and I will speak to you very, very soon.